like that.
Is there a lot of racism in Lexington, in South Carolina?
Not really. I mean, it is a good old boy state to classify it. A lot of riots are starting because of the racism. Charleston is actually, they're answering it with class.
We are not automatically going to wake up one day and be in a post-racial society unless we work to that end. I think everybody wants to be kind, everyone wants to be nice, but underneath that, the waters run very deep.
Okay, just to give you a flavor.
Yeah, they sure do, man. All right? They sure do, because it goes all the way back to Jacob and Esau, brothers. All right? Jacob being, the heir to the promise, okay, and Esau being hated of the Lord, and he knows that, all right, he's really upset, at what happened, the fact that he was supplanted, meaning he was pretty much tricked, but he had a right to be tricked because the Heavenly Father ordained that, man. So how you going to change what the Heavenly Father had said, man? Okay, so Yahweh Bashem Yahushai wanted, the Israelites, which is the so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians, to literally run the world, okay? But because of the curses of Deuteronomy, man, this is going to be definitely a war, okay? It's going to be a war out here because you're going to see Esau trying to kill Jacob, all right? And that's what he's doing. All right, let's go all the way back to Genesis and his blessing. Genesis 27 and verse number 39 says, And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth. And that's why you have these Edomites in power, man. All right? They're everywhere. America typically now, or literally has about army bases in about 120 different countries. All right? And they're spread very thin, man. Just like Rome. It's very similar, man. All right? When you do history on ancient Rome, that's why you people need to study. All right, who call yourselves Israelites, you actually need to study the scriptures and also the history and geography and Latin, Hebrew, and Greek. All right, just like Elder Apostle Tahar said, man. Listen to your elders, man. All right, and do your sit-downs. Don't just go out there and screaming, the Edomites are the devil. Just running around rampant, trying to style on people on camera, thinking you're a big tough guy. It's not about that. All right? So I'm going to go on to the next clip in a second. Matter of fact, I'm going to keep on going with this. Slakia, Genesis 27 and 40. The rest of 39. I'll just read it again. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. So basically, he got everything. He's running the whole world. He's running the whole world, brothers. All right? The earth shall be given to the hand of the wicked. Given into the hand of the wicked. That's what it is. Okay? Verse 40, And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have dominion, thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand, then will I slay my brother Jacob. All right, so this is going to segue into the next clip, brothers.
We knew we were kicking the hornet's nest of a 43-year-old murder case that wasn't going to get the attention, and the truth wasn't going to come out, and the justice wasn't going to be found unless we kicked it often and hard. In 2004, I was working on a documentary about the Mississippi burning case. 3 civil rights workers, Schwerner, Cheney, and Goodman, who were murdered by the Klan on June 21st, 1964. And in the course of preparing to make that film, I had to do a lot of research. Looking through one of the films, I saw the image of a body being taken out of the river, and the narrator said something like, "This was the wrong body. This wasn't the body of Schwerner, Cheney, or Goodman," and therefore the searchers moved on, and that was it. I'm like, wait a sec, I stopped to see that, and I rewound it and played it again. Whose body is this that they found? Further research revealed that it was the body of Henry D. Henry Hezekiah D. was a 19-year-old African-American from Meadville, Mississippi, who disappeared on May 2nd, 1964, along with his friend, another African-American named Charles Eddie Moore. So these two black youths were the wrong bodies, and the other three were the right bodies, and of course 2 of the 3 Mississippi burning victims were white. And I thought, I'm going to make a film about this.
All right, bear in mind, brothers, I just wanted to stop this real quick, man. Nobody is black. All right, that's just a color in a crayon box. Nobody's white. That's also a color in a crayon box. Okay, and these people, these so-called white people, are actually Edomites. All right, Adawam, it means red. All right, and they're a derivative of red, which is pink. Same thing. All right, and their skin pigment shows through their skin. Okay, that redness. And also in the scriptures of the Bible, all right, leprous skin is a curse, all right, according to the Holy Scriptures, man. That's a curse, all right? And have melanin is regular. That's why they identified Esau when he was born out of Rebekah's womb, all right, as the child being red, okay? And it says like a hairy garment, but hairy is not an attribute of Esau, just so everybody knows, all right? It was just a garment, period, that was that color. All right, that's why it was called a hairy garment. Okay, so just for you people out there, man, who are trying to say Esau's hairy, you know, there's everybody has hair. All right, that's part of our bodies. Sort of these so-called Puerto Rican women. But anyway, I'm just gonna let that play. Just wanted to put that out there real quick.
So I decided to find a family member to go with me. That led me to Thomas Moore, who is Charles Moore's brother. Thomas was a career Army Command Sergeant Major, and I was a career filmmaker, social activist. I was vegetarian, eating Cheerios in the car, and he was a big-time meat eater. It was an interesting relationship. We soon made our way down to Meadville, sort of doing a reenactment, which was kind of ridiculous, but we borrowed an old truck from a fellow who was standing watching us, and I drove the truck, and Thomas hitchhiked, and I pretended to be the Klansman. Then we went into the forest and tried to sort of reenact the beating, which we understood from FBI documents to have taken place, with long poles where the boys were whipped, beaten, bloody and unconscious, and then eventually they were rolled into the back of a car and taken across the Mississippi River into Louisiana, where they were finally disposed of while still alive.
Okay, so that's why you are the devil. All right, that's just part of it. I'm gonna let it keep playing so you can keep hearing this stuff. But this is why you're the devil, Esau.
We had somebody drive up and say in their southern drawl, you know, "Can we help y'all? What y'all doing?" And we just said, "Well, we're fishing." And we look behind us, and there's this like dried up creek bed behind us, and they're like, "You're fishing here?" Yeah, we've got some funny looks. Before we went down to Mississippi, we had read that all the Klansmen who had taken part in the Dean Moore murders were dead, except for one, a guy named Charles Marcus Edwards. And he had been interviewed by Connie Chung, and he had been interviewed in newspapers about his role, and he always denied that he had anything to do with killing Charles Moore and Henry D. But he was alive, and we knew where he lived. Well, Charles Edwards lived in the Bunkley community, which was a well-known Klan hotspot, shall we say, in the southern U.S. In fact, it was probably the home of some of the most violent Klan members in U.S. history. And he still lived there, so Thomas and I decided that we would first try to call him. 2 or 3 or 4 attempts, and each time he hung up. On another occasion, we went to Edward's house, and the plan was that Thomas would come out, and I would film Thomas trying to talk to Edwards, and we drove up, and Mr. Edwards was in his driveway. I got out, I had my camera ready, this dog lunged at me and was barking, and I turned around, Thomas wasn't there. So Thomas stayed in the van, and I walked up to talk to Edwards in his driveway, and I tried to get him to talk, and of course, he didn't. And He kicked me off his property, and I backed away, and we drove off, and Thomas revealed that he was just paralyzed with fear. He could not get out of the van. On another occasion, we decided, since Edwards was a deacon of a church in Bunkley, the Bunkley Baptist Church, which was a church actually built by the Klan, we decided that maybe being on the church grounds would somehow, allow Edwards to be more honest or to, be more amenable to talking. And we knew that he would arrive early to open the church. We drove back and forth on the Bunkley Road several dozen times. Finally, Edwards arrived at the church. We approached, and this time Thomas got out of the truck. They had a conversation, and Edwards, of course, denied that he had anything to do with killing Charles Moore, Thomas's brother, but when I asked him, did he have any role in picking them up, he went silent. He wouldn't answer that question. And I asked him several times, did you have something to do with picking those boys up, sir? And Edwards kept backing up and eventually kicked us off the property again. On one day, we decided to go for lunch to a place that Thomas knew. It was a gas station, actually, that made some great sandwiches. He had this massive sausage sandwich, and of course I'm eating like my Cheerios next to him, my feet up on the dashboard, and Thomas saw a guy he knew, in fact a relative named Kenny Bird. And Kenny came over to the car and said, Thomas, what are you doing here? And Thomas said, well, we're here working, the case of my brother. And Kenny said, yeah, I remember about that. And then Thomas said, it's too bad James Forseal is dead. And Kenny looked at him and said, what are you talking about? He lives right over there. And Kenny turns around and points across the road from us. And Thomas and I looked at each other and we're like, what? It's kind of silly because, everybody in the town kind of knew he was still alive, but the information just never got out. And in fact, Seal had been reported as dead by at least 2 or 3 main journalistic publications, so we had no inkling that he would be still alive. And he was a significant factor in the case. In fact, his family was known as a fairly violent family in the area, part of the Klan leadership for a long time. So we were excited, and we proceeded to drive by, and we found him down the hill living in an RV. Thomas decided that he wanted to try to approach Seal from a distance. So Thomas strode along the roadside and he yelled down at James Seal, who was sitting next to the RV at the time, that he wanted to talk to him. Why don't you come and talk to me like a man? And Seal just ran into his RV. He just disappeared instantly. Thomas also began to run away for fear that Seal had gone inside to get a rifle. Seal ran into his RV, we ran away, got into our van, and got out of there. And after that, we decided to get the community involved and build up some support for confronting Seal. We put up signs throughout Franklin County, at the site where Dee and Moore were taken, at the site where Edwards lived, at the site of James Ford Seal's house, at the site where Charles Moore used to live. Thomas was military trained, and we adopted kind of military strategy. So we generally would not go down the same road twice in the same day. We wouldn't backtrack. We would stay in hotel rooms and stay at the back of the hotel. We would never park in the front. We were careful about giving out our name. We always had each other's back. Of course, I was a white guy and he was a black guy, and he was able to speak to Mississippi blacks in a way that I could never do, and I could speak to people who were white in the community in a way that he felt he could never do. We would kind of use that to our advantage. Discovering that James Ford Seal was still alive was just a small blip in the case. There was still a huge load of work to do if the case was ever to find justice. And Thomas and I knew that. Really, we had to get Charles Edwards to start talking in order to get anywhere with the case. When we confronted him at the church, we knew that we had him on the question of whether he had had anything to do with picking the boys up. Right afterwards, we called the U.S. attorney that we'd been talking to, Dunn Lampton, and told him what we had done. And Lampton said, thanks very much for telling me, and apparently, according to Lampton, a couple of weeks later, he was down there talking to Edwards, and Edwards confessed. It was Charles Edwards' idea, in fact, to kidnap Henry D. on May 2nd, 1964. Henry D. had come under suspicion by Edwards and the rest of the Klan because he wore a headscarf to protect his hair process. He was straightening his hair. And also, Henry had traveled back and forth to Chicago to visit his aunt, and there were some fears amongst Klansmen that there was an insurrection brewing amongst blacks and that guns were being brought into the county, and that somehow there was a connection to Chicago. We knew from the documents, and as he would admit later, Edwards helped pick the boys up and was one of the main guys beating them bloody and unconscious in the woods before others would take them off to Louisiana to actually kill them. Eventually, there was enough evidence the Department of Justice decided that they would pull the trigger. Turned out that Edwards had agreed to testify against Seal as the star witness in exchange for immunity. Edwards testified in court that he and James Seal had participated in the kidnapping and beating of Charles Moore and Henry Dee, and that he knew that Seal and the other Klansmen had gone on to murder Dee and Moore over in Louisiana, because sometime later he heard Seal confessing to another Klansman about what had happened later that night. During the trial, as the jury was deliberating, someone had placed a package and called it a bomb and called it into the police right near my van. So they locked down the streets in Jackson, Mississippi, several blocks around the courthouse and around the hotel. They brought in the bomb disposal guy. They said that the box was filled with racist epithets and names of people. They never were able to tell me whose names were written in the box. So I think probably an attempt to disrupt the trial. Moments later, the jury returned with a unanimous decision that Seal was guilty on all counts. 2 counts of kidnapping with a special finding that the victims were not liberated unharmed, along with 1 count of Klan conspiracy, 3 concurrent life sentences. During the trial, Charles Edwards stood up when the jury was absent and asked the Dee and Moore families for forgiveness for his role in the case. And that kind of stunned the courtroom and also the family of Charles Moore and Henry Dee. Thomas Moore was kind of dumbfounded as what to do. Should I forgive this guy? I just said you have to follow what your gut says. 4 years later, after the trial, Thomas Moore and I decided that we would go back to Mississippi and try to speak to Edwards again and try to get him to talk about the case and about this idea of forgiveness. Thomas, I think, was ready at this time. So we drove down to Mississippi, down the old Bunkley Road, past the church where we confronted Edwards so many years ago, and walked up Edwards' driveway, and there he was, standing there fixing his boat in the back of his house. So we walked up to Edwards, and Edwards welcomed us, and he didn't know we were coming. Edwards and Thomas sat together on the back porch in this swinging chair and talked about the case, and Edwards admitted what he had done and told in great detail what happened, and finally, at the end, Charles Edwards invited Thomas Moore to his church. And of course, this is the same church that was built by the White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan members, including James Seal. Thomas accepted, and then they went to the church the next day. Charles Edwards and Thomas Moore sat together and sang in this church that was built by the Klan. Thomas was the only black person in attendance. He was probably the only black person ever to attend that church. It was a very surreal moment.
Phyllis, how did your sons break it to you?
They walked in the door and then they sat down for a little while and then they said, we're going to join the Klan. I nearly had a fit.
The Ku Klux Klan is America's most notorious white supremacist group, and this year marks the 150th anniversary. This is also a year that's seen escalating racial violence in the US. In this turbulent climate, the Ku Klux Klan claim they're on the rise, and they're trying to appeal to the younger generation. How old are you?
I just turned 20 in March. I'm currently still in school.
At its peak, the KKK had an estimated 5 million members. Thousands of African Americans were tortured and murdered by lynch mobs and the Ku Klux Klan. But Klan numbers declined in the 60s. I've gained rare access to spend 7 months with the traditionalist American Knights, who say they're the fastest growing KKK group in America. Some of their rituals remain unchanged.
Y'all heard that, man, alright? Thousands were murdered, man. Thousands. Okay, you don't hear that on the other side of things, man. You see these proud-ass people? Look at that devil. That's why you're the devil, Esau. That's why you're the goddamn devil, alright? You're the devil.
But they claim they've left violence behind.
We haven't killed anybody. I haven't anyway.
In this
Yeah, I haven't anyway. Yeah, it doesn't even matter to him, you know.
atmosphere of racial tension,
Come on, KKK. Fuck around, you're gonna get fucked around.
3 members belonging to the clan I'm filming are arrested for planning to kill a black man. I've come here to find out just who belongs to the KKK and if it really is on the rise. I'm by the banks of the Mississippi River in the state of Missouri. A local town called Ferguson has recently been the focus of the world's media. A black youth has just been killed by a white policeman, which has led to widespread rioting. Racial tension is high, and the police seem unable to control the situation. The local Ku Klux Klan claim that some of the white population are turning to them.
I'm getting a lot of feedback. A lot of people are real upset about what's going on, you know.
Frank Ancona is the leader of the traditionalist American Knights, one of 20 KKK groups in the US. He claims his has the fastest growing membership and that their hotline is receiving over 100 calls a day.
I am of the white race. We are subjected to criminal violence.
Oh, it's nonstop.
After some negotiation, Frank's invited me to his house. He's been leading his clan for 6 years. By day, he's a delivery driver with a passion for heavy metal.
I don't like rap music because to me it's not music.
Frank's not entirely out of touch with modern culture.
You know what? I'll agree with him on that. Rap music really isn't music. It's all fucking trash. Alright, pretty much. You know what I mean? As far as, you know, right now, currently. You know, back in the days or whatever, you know, they had a little something going on, but, you know, pretty much it's all about adultery, you know. It's really fucking terrible, man, to be honest. It's really horrible. But anyway, just whatever.
He's built a sophisticated website, which has been attracting attention since the Ferguson riots.
You get many hits?
Oh yeah, the volume is higher than it's ever been. And in the 6 years that I've been in Imperial Wizard, we've had as many as 50 to 100,000 hits in a day.
Frank's website declares that the white race must keep itself pure and regain control of America from the inferior races.
There's a reason that God made us separate races, and the white race is a superior race.
But there appears to be a contradiction in Frank's idea.
If you're superior, then how come you can't beat us in sports? Alright, how come Floyd Mayweather's the best boxer? Alright? Pretty much of all time. Alright, of this era, really. Of this time. And then Muhammad Ali, you know, you couldn't beat him. Alright? You Edomites couldn't beat him. Alright, how come Michael Jordan's the best basketball player? You Edomites couldn't beat him. You can't even come close to beating him. Alright, how come the majority of professional football players is the tribe of Judah, man? Alright, so-called American black men. Alright, well, so what you got to say about that? And Hispanic. What you got to say about that, man? Okay, you're superior? I don't think so.
Theology.
You know, when we say we're not a hate group, it's true. We don't hate people of other races. We don't really hear our members preaching hatred toward other races. And most of us are in this for the fraternal brotherhood aspect of it for the most part.
And then why didn't you
and the history.
have a bridge club or poker club?
Because somebody has to carry this on.
The history of the clan as a hate group is something that Frank is keen to shake off. Perhaps this clan sees my film as an ideal PR opportunity.
We're not like the media tries to portray us. We're not the evil monsters like, they sometimes say on some of the documentaries. Everybody else can speak out for what they believe in, but when we do it, it's racist. If that's what they want to call it, so be it. To me, my race is my family, so sure, I'm going to look out for the interest of my family first.
That's right, because the word racist is basically just for your own people. That's it. From the word raza, which means race. Your own people. Racist. You're for your own people. All right? I think I'm gonna do a GMS word of the day, racist. That's what I think I'm gonna do. But I'll go into it in more detail, but let this play out just a little bit more, brothers, then I'm gonna wrap it up.
Clan's public image still draws hostility, and Frank's bodyguards, the Nighthawks, are needed for protection.
We really usually don't have much trouble. We've been lucky, but we all are armed. All Nighthawks are supposed to be armed. I stay close to His Lordship here.
I mean, if there was trouble with the robe design, is that going to be a problem?
No, I can get to it really quick.
Oh, I see.
Frank's told me his group has over 2,500 members, and since the riots in Ferguson, he's been seeing lots more recruits. I want to see who these people are. I'm meeting one who's rising through the ranks, 29-year-old John, who lives with his wife Heather and their 3 children. The clan needs more security, and John's just been promoted to become one of the Nighthawks. His new handmade uniform has just been delivered.
This one's mine here. Yep, just got made by Sister Linda in there. She made it.
Little Shardy here.
Quality work.
Oh, really, really good.
So what does it stand for, the clan?
All the security guys wear their black ones only Nighthawk. Like whenever we're having meetings, I'll stand outside the door and make sure nobody comes in or goes out.
The clan's robes are iconic. John's 27-year-old wife Heather is being measured up for hers. She joined 2 months ago.
Have you had any reactions from your friends after joining?
Not so far. No. Not so
Your
far.
parents?
Parents don't know.
Ah.
Yeah, parents don't know.
I want to know why a young father like John joined a year ago.
I've been on the housing list for 6 years. I got 3 white children, myself and my wife, and I work every single day. I've been waiting for 6 years now to be assisted a little bit by the government, have a little help. Nothing. Our country just don't care about us Americans who built this country. It's all about a handout to all the illegal immigrants.
Now, he said who built this country. Listen, who built this country was the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you piece of shit. You just came over here with guns.
Doesn't the history of the clan bother you, Heather?
What the past was, like, the Ku Klux Klan people, it's, what they used to say about it, how horrible it was, and so, of course, I went by what society thought, and that's not at all it. Not even close.
That's the way I was. That was exactly how I was.
I was actually very hesitant at first, and I met everyone and experienced it all and realized how great everybody is. And it honestly has helped my marriage. So, yes, we struggled. We struggled a lot. We had a lot of issues. I'm not going to go into what issues they were, but we had a lot of issues. And now, it's great. I couldn't be happier.
Heather and John's cozy family isn't what I expected of the clan. But I'm not sure I'm seeing the complete picture.
Make sure we don't get it upside down now.
Clan members are expected to help recruit others, and I'm meeting one clansman who likes to advertise in his own front yard. Rick, a retired police officer, is known as the Grand Clud. He's the clan equivalent of a Christian chaplain.
Boy, here comes the school bus.
Hello? White Power, how are you guys doing?
Pretty good. How you doing?
I just seen you guys here and I figured I wanted to help spread the message.
Well,
Would you take a picture, please? Just press that button right there.
I'm not going to wear the hood because I'm telling you, it's hot. And I don't care who knows who I am. No. I never use the right hand. That's Nazi. I don't like that.
Oh, I don't know much about it, and I would like to learn more. I've always supported. Okay.
Left hand.
Okay.
Are you interested in becoming a member?
I'm very well considering it. I would definitely like to know more about it and get to know it, you know?
Let me give you one of my cards. It has a website where you can go to. It'll give you instructions on what you need to do.
All right. Well, goodbye, sir.
Goodbye. Have a nice white day.
Have a white day.
You think he's a good candidate?
We'll find out.
Well, he's young, isn't he? He's young.
Yeah, he's young. He may be dumb, too. I don't know. Look, we'll find out.
I'm realizing how nervous the clan are about their public image. The young man's Nazi salute could have been a PR disaster.
I told him don't do that because we're on television. I would hope you would edit that.
With all these new members, I imagine a production line of clan tailors. But it's just Linda. She's married to Rick, the Grand Clud. He persuaded Linda to join 3 years ago and helps her make the traditional hoods.
I was impressed with their ideals, what they wanted to do, and I wanted to be a part of it, you know. Plus, you know, it made Rick and I closer in our relationship. And I wasn't going to pass up on that, you know.
You didn't want to be sitting on the couch.
Yeah, I didn't want to be left at home sitting by myself all the time.
Okay, now we're going to get to the eyes here on this mask.
That's the kind of thing you can't get wrong, isn't it, I suppose?
That's why I let him do it. I don't
Because
know if
her
he...
hand shakes. This guy's got a little head. I got the big head.
You've got a bit of string in your eye.
Right there. I'll have to cut it off.
Okay.
That better?
That's a bit better. It's less stringy anyway. That's better. I've been with the clan for 2 weeks, and I'm still trying to understand what they truly represent. I'm going to a secret location deep in the woods to find out more. Frank, their leader, has gathered his people for an important message about the escalating violence in Ferguson.
You have a bunch of wild savages running the streets. It just angers me, and it should anger everybody, because it's not only black savages, there's white savages out there, godless, lawless criminals.
We're not gonna be quiet, we're not gonna start rioting until we get peace.
Frank tells his clan they can defend themselves with lethal force. I'm finally seeing the other side of this clan.
Big smile.
I've spent a month with the Missouri chapter of the Ku Klux Klan, who are actively recruiting during this period of racial unrest in Ferguson. This clan, the Traditionalist American Knights, claim to be the fastest growing in America. I want to find out if they really are on the rise, and who joins an organization promoting white supremacy.
Is it what you expected? It's actually been better than I expected. I believe in the cause, and it's something I could relate to.
They've given me surprising access to their secretive world. Tonight, I'm being allowed to see their infamous cross-burning ceremony. Clan members travel miles to see this event.
How far did you come today to be here?
It was about a 6-hour drive, about 400 miles.
Wow.
But it's worth it. We enjoy what we do. We're not bad like everybody thinks we are, you know.
Do you have a partner? Is she in the clan?
She's not in, no. She agrees with what I do, but no, she doesn't. She doesn't have anything to do with it, you know. She's not clan material, I'll say.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm still curious to know what draws people into the clan. Could a part of it be the rituals and grand titles, such as Exalted Cyclops, Imperial Dragon, and Grand Goblin? Frank, their leader, is about to announce he's won a new title.
Greetings to all hydras of realms, Clegals of domains, grand titans and furies of provinces, giants, exalted cyclops, and terrors of cantons, and to all citizens of the invisible empire of the Ku Klux Klan. In the name of our valiant and venerated dead, I affectionately greet you. Klansmen, do we believe in our cause?
Yes.
I see that the clan enables people to escape their ordinary lives. Where else can a delivery driver like Frank transform himself into an imperial wizard? Or a landscape gardener like Jeff become a grand dragon?
Brother, now you are appointed Grand Dragon for the realm of Kentucky and Tennessee. If I could have the acting Grand Dragon for the realm of Alabama come forward. I dub thee the Grand Dragon for the realm of Alabama.
So what's this award for?
For Grand Dragon. We're the state leaders now. I'm over Kentucky and he's over Alabama.